Hello, Vincent Carroll speaking. This is tutorial number 23. Some months ago, a young man presented to me, I think he was about age 27, with headaches of recent origin. Maybe they were there for about 3 months or so. So where do you begin with a case history like that? Well, naturally, I wanted to find out about the headache. And he very quickly mentioned that it was a throbbing type of headache. And the headache was distributed over what we would immediately identify as the gallbladder channel. So nothing unusual about that. His choice of word was migraine. So his definition or understanding of the word migraine was a thumping, pounding, unpredictable headache that would distribute over the same area of his head on a regular basis. So that particular distribution, geographical distribution if you like, corresponded to the gallbladder channel, from gallbladder number 1 off the corner of his eye to the lobe of his ear, which is of course is gallbladder number 2, and then across the right hemisphere of his skull, which is gallbladder number 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, almost as far as 20, and it was a throbbing type of energy. So what actually was going on? Well, the energy was rising in an unpredictable and chaotic way. Where was it coming from? It was coming presumably from liver qi being stagnant in the lower jiao. And of course, at a particular point, that energy entered into one of the greater yang channels, and in this case it was the paired channel, obviously, of the liver, which is the gallbladder channel, and it rose up. It could have spilled into other channels as well. It so happens it didn't, such as the stomach channel or the urinary bladder channel, greater yang channels, or indeed into the lesser yang channel, which is the sanjiao channel, which also carries up quite a bit of energy as well, that is liver based up to the head. But that's sort of his situation. That's where he was in, and the question is, why is it happening to him? And it happened to him because he recently got promoted with a lot more responsibility. Now, that eroded his yin energies. He had to give up a lot of things that he enjoyed doing to concentrate more on his work, but he didn't see a purposeful nature to his work. His work was in sales. His work was making a profit for somebody else. And while he was conscientious, and perhaps that was part of his problem, he was over-conscientious with his work, it demolished his sense of yin. He'd given up playing golf. He'd given up doing a range of other things, going for a walk in the evening or whatever, because he was concentrating on his work, arriving in early, coming home late, and trying to motivate people who also didn't particularly want to be motivated. So it was a lot of extra pressure for very little extra reward on him, and it eventually dealt a blow to his yin, his sense of serenity, his calmness, his peacefulness, but more important than that, his whole sense of purpose. The reason why I'm doing this was decreasing. When that happens, your yin goes down. When your yin goes down, it doesn't hold the yang in place. The yang rises in a chaotic way. And in his case, the tripping point was a couple of months ago when the yin dipped below the level it takes to allow yang to enter into the channel and rise up. It could be a combination about perhaps yang accumulating for whatever reason, a frustration, a sense of a sudden realization of this sense of busyness in his life, and that can sort of create this sense of entrapment, and entrapment will trap yang energies, which are liver energies, which are stored in the lower and middle jiao, because that's where they accumulate. That's where you feel the sense of oppression, the sense of expansion in your lower jiao, the bloated feeling. You don't always have to feel that, of course. This chap did, but you don't have to feel that, because some people, the energy will rise into the gallbladder channel immediately and just travel up. For other people, there's a waiting period where the liver invades the lower jiao, the liver invades the middle jiao, and eventually when there's more liver occurring and nowhere for it to go, it enters into the only place left for it to go, and that is a greater yang channel, and it rises up and it presents as pathology along the channel line. And that can be a number of things. In his particular case, it corresponded to a migraine headache in 2 locations across the right side of his head. It could also correspond to itchy red eyes or dry eyes, because of course that's where the gallbladder starts, gallbladder number 1, or it could be around the lobe of his ear, or his ear presenting as tinnitus, because of course point gallbladder number 2 is where the lobe meets the face on the front of the ear, where the lobe meets the face. That's number 2, gallbladder number 2. You needle it by getting the person, of course, to open their mouth, and you pop the needle in. So a lot of that makes sense. Now, he also was grinding his teeth in bed at night, and he did have temporal mandibular joint pain, meaning the masseter muscle was quite tight, and that corresponds corresponds to stomach number 6. But for him, that wasn't a big issue. The main issue was the liver rising up in a chaotic way, which he chose to use the word migraine to describe. I would accept that word because migraine usually, not always, corresponds to liver yang rising in the gallbladder channel. So what is the solution? Well, we don't have a magic wand. We can't get him a new job. So we have to go and tackle it as it is. And what you do is you reverse the flow of qi. If the qi is coming up, you pull the qi back down. And that's gallbladder number 43, between the fourth and fifth toe in the web. I would also do a liver 2 on the other side as well. In fact, in his particular case, I did a bilateral gallbladder 43 to drag down, and liver 2 on one side. All spring points to drag down rising yang on these particular channels. But of course, that it doesn't really serve a full purpose unless you also can circulate the flow of qi around. So liver 3, gallbladder 34 is very, very important, because if not, it'll just accumulate and it will come up again next day or the day after. So you don't actually want that to happen. So in his particular case, we chose to pull the yang down, and we chose to circulate the liver qi in the body. Also calm and down my pericardium 6 and preserve yin with Ren 4 rather. It's very, very common for people who are thrown into positions of responsibility where they feel overwhelmed, where they feel entrapped, and where they don't see a purpose in what they're doing, or a career structure or a future, to feel swamped by the responsibility put upon them for no productive or yin enhancing reason. He was a typical example of that. So because of that, he needs to understand about yin, about the creation of a sense of wonderment, a sense of majesty, a sense of amazement in his life. And that can come in a whole range of different ways, but he has to cultivate that himself, such as an appreciation of nature, an appreciation of spirituality, quality literature, quality music, so on and so forth. All of these things enhance yin. But that can only happen when your headache's gone, obviously. So our first job is to reduce the excess yang rising, creating what he chooses to describe as a migraine headache, and then build up on that, build up his yin, give him insight, let him know where he's at. And that's the best way forward. And it worked very well. And he's actually changed jobs, would you believe? And he's motoring on a different pathway in life and is a very happy person with no headaches. Thank you.